Good morning, everyone. I'm secretary as well as a director of the Events Industry Forum. The forum brings together 30 trade bodies and organizations across the outdoor event industry. And we publish the Purple Guide, and that's our main focus, really. The Purple Guide was originally devised or developed in the 1990s and published by the HSE. But in early 2010, I think it was, when we approached the HSE to update it, they, for various reasons, couldn't do that. So we came to an agreement with the HSE that we would take over publication, but they still endorse it and support it. So it's very much grown from that point. I think at the time we took it over, there were about 12 chapters. We're now up to 45. And keep adding more all the time, so it's become a mammoth task to maintain it. And we publish it on the basis of it being done for not for profit. So all the money we get over and above the costs of running the guide go straight back into the industry in the form of grants. I mean, we're just been looking today at we've got 13 applications for grants, which we're about to look at this month. So it very much supports the outdoor event industry right across the UK. And we're currently also updating and revising the guide. It's going to be relaunched hopefully this autumn. The chapters will be reviewed. Each of the chapters will be reviewed and brought into line so they're all consistent, a bit better than they perhaps have been. We're also going to be launching an international version at the same time. And that's more or less the same guide, but without the UK legislation attached to it. All the chapters we have are written by working groups from the industry and organisations like the police and HSE are involved in those working groups where it's appropriate. And Darren Vickery is going to take over from me. From Tailor Made Insurance, was one of on those working groups that wrote the insurance chapter. So Darren, do you want to pick up from me and talk about insurance, which is what we're here for today?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much, Jim, and talkers, everyone as well. And nice to see so many people on here. As already said, my name is Darren Vickery and I run Tailor Made Risk Solutions. We're an insurance broker that does specialise in the events, music and entertainment industry. I've been working in the field and providing insurance for events for just under 20 years. And we cover all types of events, anything from small local fetes to firework displays to large festivals with tens of thousands of people in attendance. I fully appreciate insurance may not be the most exciting aspects of all your jobs and your roles, but it should be classed as a necessity. It needs to start working its way up your priority list when organising the events. As I mentioned, I'm a specialist insurance broker for the event industry. The insurance for events is not a typical off-the-shelf kind of package and cannot generally be purchased via online comparison sites. Therefore, it is good to engage with a broker that does specialise in this field. An insurance broker's role is to act as an intermediary, representing you guys and your best interests to find and secure the most suitable insurance coverage. We've access to various providers and we can look to get the most competitive price. We are there to support you from the start to the finish and help provide guidance and advice to you as and when necessary. As mentioned, we know which insurers offer the best policies, and after discussing with you guys, we can work out what your requirements or your needs are, so we can approach the correct insurer for you. With regard as a broker, we will use our knowledge to highlight areas of cover that you may not have considered when starting to organise your event. A broker's role doesn't just stop after you've purchased the insurance policy and after you've paid the premium. They're on hand throughout the whole period, even after the event, in order to just answer general questions or queries that you may have. If any changes are needed to be made throughout the period, you should expect your brokers to be on hand to help make those changes. For example, if you're on site and you need to increase your hired in equipment sums insured, they should be able to do that. In the event of a claim, the insurance broker should be there, contacted first, and they're able to assist you, advise, and then instruct insurers and loss adjusters as and when required. Hopefully the brokers, we are there to ease the process and keep pushing insurers and loss adjusters for settlement and to get the right result for everyone. We are on hand to guide you through the process. We can take you from start to finish and hopefully take the stresses away from you so you can just concentrate on what you do best and put on fantastic fun-filled events. We're here to do the boring side of the paperwork so that you can go on site and carry on with all the events. We also fully appreciate the event industry is not a 9-to-5 job. Therefore, finding a broker that can accommodate your needs during evenings, weekends is also key. As mentioned, you may have some changes that required outside of working normal hours that need to be actioned. So if it's always helpful if you can just pick up the phone to someone. Yes, we do have lives as well, like everyone, but the idea is we are still contactable out of hours because we fully appreciate it is not a 9-to-5 job. Right, to get into the actual nitty gritty of the insurance, as soon as you start planning for an event, insurance, that is when the insurance should be considered. Quick discussion with an insurance broker at the start can help determine what kind of covers you may actually require. And the further you start these conversations from the actual event itself, provides you with wider cover and longer cover. So if anything does go wrong in that lead, you are covered up before the event. If the insurance, on the negative side, if the insurance is purchased very close to the event, a few weeks or days before, and then we're approaching insurers, they may ask, why is it so late? Why have they not planned this properly? What else have they not planned properly? So therefore the cost may start to increase. If cancellation insurance is required, obviously insurers have access to up-to-date and latest weather information. So they may be able to check the weather to see if there is any potential storms, wind, rain, etc. And therefore they may not be able to offer the insurance, or if they do, it's going to be at a much higher premium. Everybody in the chain that is involved in the event, from the organizer at the top to the suppliers, to the food vendors, to the performers, are required to have their own insurance. As the organizer, I'd recommend you contacting all of these guys if you don't, and get a copy of their public liability insurance. This can be just kept on your file so that you have it in the event of any potential claims, or if you need to send it over to the broker, that's also advisable so that they have a copy on their file in case there is a claim. There are various types of insurance that can be taken out, and policies can be offered on an event-specific basis or as an annual policy. Event-specific insurance pretty much does what it says on the tin. It covers you purely for the event, from setup to takedown, all the equipment on site, the liabilities. It's done as a package, but it's purely for the event itself. There's also annual insurance policies which can cover you for the whole year round. This will also cover any site visits, meetings, smaller ancillary events that you may run, like fundraising, quiz nights, etc. And it'll also cover the main event itself. When thinking about the insurance for the events, there are 3 main insurances to consider: public liability, employer's liability, and equipment cover, be it your own equipment or your hired in equipment. There are various other insurances you can consider and purchase additionally as well, which include cancellation cover, national mourning, terrorism, money, and cyber. But I'll go into all of these details a little bit more now. The actual insurance policy you can choose can be tailored for what your exact needs are. So you can pick and choose the various covers that you may need. But again, speaking to a broker, they can help decide and discuss with you what is required. If we start off with public liability insurance, whether you're hosting a small business dinner, a major festival, public liability insurance covers you, your employees, and the company against any claims from members of the public. if an attendee is injured at your event, or if you inadvertently damage somebody else's property, event liability will protect you and your business as the event organizer. The insurance is calculated generally on the number of people that are attending the event. More and more venues and events are now looking to insure for a 10 million public liability limit. You can also get 2 million and 5 million. And I've seen extremes where O2, Wembley, and some of the others are even looking up to 20 and 50 million. Personally, I don't think that's required, because then when you have to pass, when you're speaking to the subcontractors, there is also a note in the policy that states a subcontractor should have the same insurance as the main organizer themselves. To me, this is not feasible, that you can ask someone selling burgers to have a 50 million limit. So what we try and do is add a subcontractor clause in the policy to state that they should have a minimum of 2 million or 5 million, so that not everybody needs the same as the person at the top of the policy. Another point to consider with regards to public liability relates to the artists and the performers. Many years we've been trying to educate them to ensure that they realise that they still need their own insurance as well. We're constantly hearing from bands, managers, stating that they do not need insurance because they're covered by the venue or the event. This is categorically not the case. Each supplier, contractor is responsible for their own actions. So as the event organizer, you cannot be held responsible for their actions or if they're... This is why it's essential for all involved to have their own insurance, so that in the event of a claim, we can direct it to the correct person or the correct company or insurer. Employer's liability. This insurance is required by law if you have anyone working with you, for you, or under your guidance and control, whether they're paid or not. It would include all volunteers, temporary staff, work experience people. This insurance helps protect you against staff claims following accidents at work or work-related illnesses. The standard limit for this insurance is 10 million. Regards to equipment, whilst planning for an event, you may well require additional cover for hired-in equipment or plant. This can include anything from trackways, staging, PA systems, audio equipment, barriers, toilets, anything of the like that. Again, some organisers assume that they may be covered by the equipment hiring company. However, once the equipment is in your care, custody and control, you will be held responsible for any accidental damage, fire, theft, etc. that occurs. An additional cover that should come part of the equipment cover is continuing hire charges. This should be considered, as it provides cover for the equipment hiring company, so if they're unable to use the equipment due to theft or damage, then they will usually make you responsible for paying any continuing hire charges until the equipment is fixed or replaced, as they are unable to use that and hire the equipment out any further. You'll generally have a hire agreement in place stating what you are responsible for, and it will generally say something like you are responsible for any damage, etc. Make sure you have your own insurance in place to cover any costs. With regards to the equipment as well, one other major issue is under insurance. So when hiring the property equipment, it is important to insure the equipment for the total replacement value. Fully appreciate that if you've got £1 million worth of hired in equipment on site, unless you're going to have a major incident, a fire which wipes through the whole event, you would hopefully not have £1 million worth of equipment stolen. And obviously, with regards to a premium, you're paying on that £1 million. But if you decide to just choose to cover £100,000 worth of equipment, then technically you are only insuring 10% of the total value. Therefore, in the event of a claim, if the whole £1 million worth of equipment was to be stolen or damaged, you would only get 10% of what you've insured for. Therefore, the hiring company would potentially come to you looking for the remainder of the money, therefore making you potentially bankrupt, shutting down the event and not being able to proceed in the future. On top of these public and employers' liability and money, public liability and equipment, you can also get money cover. This protects organisers for any cash that they may have on site. It also covers cash in transit to and from sites. I fully appreciate the way of the world now. We're moving to more cashless. So there's also the possibility to consider cyber insurance, which will possibly protect you against Wi-Fi failure or point of sale systems failure. Excuse me, cancellation insurance. The cancellation of the event is always the last thing you expect or want to happen. Planning is key. Everything from risk management, risk assessments, event management plans, weather management plans, budgets, figures. You can take out cancellation insurance based on either your gross revenue or profit, or you can cover your costs and expenses. If you have a budget, this can be used to determine the necessary figures in the event of a claim. And insurers will like to see this at the end to calculate any details relating to the claim, and a loss adjuster would go through the budget with a fine-tooth comb to see if there's any savings, etc. they can make. Cancellation insurance covers things like cancellation of the event, abandonment, interruption, but it also can cover any additional costs that may be required. So insurers would rather spend a smaller amount for extra measures if it means the whole event can still take place. An example would be to hire extra trackway at a smaller cost, say £10,000, as opposed to cancelling the whole of the event, costing hundreds of thousands, if not millions. One of the main reasons for cancellation insurance is due to the weather. The weather in this country and Scotland and the island of Wales and everywhere is becoming more and more unpredictable. Over the last few years, we've seen extreme weather, and it's affected many, many events. Most people think just of extreme weather as wind and rain, but here in the UK, obviously this year, we've had 4 heat waves throughout the summer alone. Although preventative measures can be put in place for wind and rain, but with the intense heat in a field with no shelter, this is also a serious concern. So with regards to the additional costs, it may be incurred that you may need to hire in more gazebos or marquees. You may need to look at getting misting stations. You may need more additional medical staff as well on site. Following on from the cancellation insurance, we have national mourning. That is another additional cover which event organisers may need to consider. With some royals being admitted to hospital or undergoing treatment, the risk of potential national mourning incident is increasing and could start to play a huge part in the festivals or events over the next few months or years. However, this insurance can be costly and sometimes difficult to obtain depending on who you are looking to get the cover for. One major factor now which is becoming more and more common is terrorism insurance. There's been many events recently for music or public events where they have been targeted. A terrorism event or even the threat of attack may not necessarily occur at your event itself. It could occur within a specific time and distance of the event, meaning the event itself may not be able to proceed. Therefore, you have the option to get covers. You can get a time and distance cover, which if an event occurs within a certain time frame or within a distance of the event, you would be covered, or you're able to get full cover with no restrictions. In April this year, the Terrorism Protection of Premises Act 2025, also known as Martin's Law, received royal assent. This Act delivers the government's manifesto commitment to strengthen the security of public premises and events. The law creates a duty to protect the public from terrorism at certain publicly accessible locations. There are 4 main areas now which need to be considered to be specific risk assessments. So you need to undertake and understand the threat of terrorism at any specific location during the event. There needs to be mitigation details. You need to implement appropriate and proportionate measures to reduce the vulnerability of attacks where possible. Preparedness. You must deliver and have a safety plan in place for responding to a terrorist incident. And training. All of the staff must have adequate training on security measures. With regards to this, there is a full fact sheet that can be found on the government website, which can be shared around. One final point is regards to the cost of the insurance, and it can depend on varying factors. What covers you select, what covers required. It can take into account what type of event it is, the experience of the event organizer, whether it's an indoor and outdoor event, the number of people attending, the total value of the sums insured, what risk assessments and the depth of the risk assessments and management plans you have. So one major comment and final comment I would say is Throughout the whole process, when you're speaking with an insurance broker, please ensure transparency and honesty throughout the whole process. We as brokers are here to help you and guide you as much as we can, and we want to work with you and build up good relationships to continue so that your event runs freely, happily, and everyone enjoys themselves. I think that's probably enough from me, Torquil. I fully appreciate it's a lot of information in a short space of time. Obviously, there'll be questions at the end. Happy to answer and discuss. But really appreciate you all listening. Thank you very much.
Darren, that's brilliant. Thank you. Really helpful and insightful. And I've got questions, but I'm going to save them for the end. And hopefully others will too. But a lot, yeah, as I say, a lot to consider there. And the support of an insurance broker in navigating all that seems to be essential. Well, yeah, thanks again. And now, just finally, before we stop recording and open for questions and discussion, I'm pleased to welcome Penny Dougherty of Unique Events to give us a practical and relatable event organiser's perspective, the other side of the equation, perhaps, on event insurance. And I think, Penny, you're going to share some slides as well.
Yes, thanks, Torquil. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. I am probably really on the other side of the coin, about to echo more or less everything, or in fact, everything that Darren has just gone through. I'm going to share some pretty slides, which has a lot of words on it, but some nice, pretty pictures. So we are Unique Events, Unique Assembly. My name is Penny, and with fellow director Alan Thompson, we are Unique Events. We're Scotland's leading independent event company and festival creators, and we specialise in high-profile national celebrations, large-scale indoor and outdoor events, and multi-venue cultural venues and festivals. We are the reason that people like to have insurance. Everything that we do is maybe not what we're looking on paper you would want to do, but it makes for some exciting and some unique events. We have produced many of the country's cultural moments and national celebrations, and they, by design, are then one-off. You don't get a second chance at them, or very seldom do you get a second chance. But we also produce many of Scotland's largest events and festivals, mainly outdoors, large-scale, high-profile, generating national and international media, and really promoting Scotland to the world. We've got a long history doing this, and we've got a lot of experience. We bring in a lot of team who have had years' experience of looking at these kind of high-profile events. Some of the key highlights that we've had: we have opened the Scottish Parliament in 1999. In 2017, we managed and delivered the official opening of the Queen's Ferry Crossing. And 20 years ago this year, unbelievably, we produced, with 6 weeks' notice, working with fellow event organisers, DF Concerts, we produced Edinburgh 50,000, the final push. And it was encouraged about the leaders when they were coming to the G8 summit in Gleneagles. And it was a concert that had a who's who of every superstar you can imagine. As I say, we had 6 weeks to plan that and deliver it. So it was not the easiest, but it's something that we're very proud to have been a major part in. And another, probably a personal favourite of mine, is the world's biggest sleep out, or Sleep in the Park as it was also called. We worked with Scottish charity Social Bite, and we delivered various sleep out events across the world. So we had one year, we had them in New York, London and Edinburgh. Another year we had 5 simultaneous events, including 4 Scottish cities. But the one that comes to mind was the first year, and that was in Edinburgh, where alone we saw 10,000 people sleep out overnight. It was in December in West Prince Street Gardens, in the grass and in the cold. It was officially -7 degrees, though we actually recorded -8 and -9 at some points. One of the most stressful events that we've done, but something that we're very proud of. So you can see why we make sure that we've got all our insurance policies in place, including cancellation. But we're best known as the originators and the producers of Edinburgh's Hogmanay and of Edinburgh's Christmas, both of which we started way back. We specialise in outdoor events in Scotland and in the winter. Following a forced hiatus, basically we lost the tender, we lost the contract, but we've now got it back. We have now formed the new company, Unique Assembly. And together we produce Edinburgh's Winter Festivals, which is Edinburgh's Hogmanay and Edinburgh's Christmas. And that is on behalf of the City of Edinburgh Council. It is high profile. It is world renowned. We're now over 30 years old, and the famous street party has in its lifetime had 3 cancellations at the mercy of the weather. Unfortunately, most recent was last year. Despite the promises of the window opportunities that we were working to, we eventually had to admit defeat. And due to worsening conditions, we cancelled the torchlight procession a few hours before it was due to commence. Unfortunately, with more bad weather forecasted as well as experienced on the ground, on the 30th of December, the multi-agency decision involving ourselves, the council, the police, all emergency services, we decided that the remaining outdoor events should reluctantly be cancelled. This was for safety reasons. I have been involved in all 3 cancellations of Edinburgh's Hogmanay. And as Darren said earlier, we've also had to look at additional costs at times to make sure we can bring the event, make sure it goes ahead. This time was probably the most difficult. It was made in advance, and while that makes operationally easier, it did mean that it was more difficult to explain to people. As we had forecasted, we were unable to build that arena, that outdoor arena, which we build within the city centre. But on the night itself, on Hogmanay night, weather wasn't great, but it wasn't too bad. Because of the early decision, it's harder to come to terms with for our decisions with our staff, but it was always the right decision to make. We always have to look at safety. Cancelling any event is never easy. It's never an easy decision to make. But it's winter and it's Scotland. We've done it before and we will come back. We are already planning and tickets are on sale for this year. This is a view of Edinburgh's Hogmanay and the fireworks, and we would hope that we will be doing something similar this year. As Darren says, it's really about planning, and it's really about planning for the event, which is unique to you and to your event. Do your research, as Darren says, look at the weather data, look at the conditions, look at your venue. Events are temporary. Look at your structures. Be mindful of where they are. Be mindful of what type they are. Are they appropriate? Are they in the right place? Weather monitoring. We have weather stations. We have anemometers at site. We check forecasts. We speak to Met officers. We work with partners and we work with national agencies. For example, at Hogmanay, we work with Edinburgh Castle because they have their weather station on site, and we also work with Edinburgh Airport. We have 1/3 of our visitors are international, so we're working with the airport and checking in advance. Scheduling. We always make sure that we allow for contingencies, whether that's the road closures and the build times or the venue conditions or just staff absences, supplier transport. Always make sure your schedule is in place. A really key thing is communications, and that is a communication with your audience, with your partners and stakeholders, with your team and your suppliers, and with the general public. Importantly, also make sure that your communications with the media are fully worked through. They've been stress tested, and there's a crisis comms in place. Always work with experienced comms professionals. Paperwork. For any kind of insurance, make sure that everything is in order. For all of your partnerships, whether it's suppliers, whether it's sponsors, whether it's staff, whether it's the ticket and TCs, what is the cancellation policies in there? Make sure you're aware of them and they've all been thought through. Decision making. Make sure there is an agreed command structure. Who makes this decision? Is there more than one decision maker? How will it be relayed? And how is it recorded? Importantly, keep your insurance rep, your broker up to date. Has a loss adjuster been appointed? Are they aware of anything? Is there anything that they require for you to do? And lastly, make sure you have an agreed cancellation process. Make sure it's robust, it's in place in advance, and it's recorded and conveyed to all the relevant personnel and partners. There's no point in having a cancellation process if nobody knows what it is. Make sure you follow those procedures. You know what they are and you follow them. It will help you at the time when you're trying to make that decision, which is one of the biggest you will make. Make sure that you have the processes in place. As organisers of such high profile events, of events which do have risks, we make sure that we have all the relevant cover in place. So as well as our combined or public and employers liability, we make sure that we have all risks and ensure that all our equipment is covered. It won't be the first time that we have had to get extra cover in place for all risks as more insurance, as more equipment's brought on site. But more and more, and most importantly for events of this stature, of stature, we make sure that we have contingency insurance. As Darren's already said, one of the biggest issues we have is the adverse weather and planning for the weather. Make sure that you do have a plan and make sure that others all have a plan. As Darren said, that could be the heat, the cold, the rain, the snow, the lightning. But of course, the one that gives us the biggest issues is the wind. We always make sure that we have an adverse weather plan and that everyone is aware of what they're doing. We also make sure that all our suppliers and all our contractors, they must have an adverse weather plan and that everybody is following the same plan together. Another point, as Darren says, is we make sure that we take out non-appearance cover if it's needed. Is it a named artist? Is the ticket sold on behalf of that artist? What is the artist's reputation? Where are they coming from? Have you factored in enough travel time? As you can see, the list goes on. It's all about being prepared. Terrorism cover, that is now, for all events that we work on, we take out terrorism cover and we work with Police Scotland and national agencies to make sure that we are totally aware of what's going on at any given time, but we always take out terrorism cover. Finally, and one of the most important factors, is to work with a reputable and experienced insurance broker. They will, as Darren said, look after you and make sure that they'll advise you and guide you. And if needed, they will support you through the long, it's sometimes complex, it's always thorough, and it's always stressful claims process. It's not expensive, it's not cheap, it's expensive to take, and it's not an easy fix. But you will be thankful if you have insurance in place, I can guarantee you. That's me as the ice queen, hoping that, making the wish that this year we will have Christmas in Hogmanay.
Fingers crossed, Penny. Thank you so much. That's really, really helpful and really insightful and good to hear it